3,
2,
1.
engage.
When you want your leads and sales on autopilot and to accelerate your business, you come to the source. The Convert Source Podcast with Alex Kubasek. Let's go.
Hey, Alex Kubasek here. So I don't think it's any shock that Facebook really got hit extremely hard over the last probably 18 months. I'm sure some of you have probably heard of iOS 14, iOS 14.5, iOS 15, and just a lot of regulations that are going around and amid the pixel and cookie world. So for those of you who don't know, basically a pixel, think of it as a really big fishing net that advertisers use to toss out into a big ocean who could possibly be their prospects. And essentially that net is to capture all of the people who want to be a part of that net or that offer, ecosystem, etc. And it basically brings them all up so that you can enjoy them. So obviously that's a really interesting analogy, but that's basically how I want you guys to really think about pixels and tracking and things. I'm sure you've heard of cookies and things like that and tags. It all really means pretty much the same thing. So in this case, today we're going to be talking about really the new effect that has been going on with Google. Now, of course, Apple is who really started all this hoopla with the whole, iOS 14. And really what had happened was in terms of how it relates to Facebook, because they're the ones that really got the first black eye, let's just call it. Really what happened is Apple came out basically saying that to users with the new iOS update of iOS 14, iOS 14.5, if you want to be removed from tracking, so apps and websites and really all of those things that the Facebook pixel was known for, if you want to opt out of tracking, we're going to let you do so. Now, basically what happened with Facebook is this cost them around like $10 billion, billions with a B. And essentially this made it so that retargeting, basically advertising back to folks who have already taken some form of an action with you. So they've either opened, your Facebook form or they've clicked on one of your ads. They basically did something, but did not complete a value action that maybe your ad campaign was set up for. And so basically what happened is this made it so that your tracking of, let's just call it it could be your purchases, it could be your leads, it could be your clicks, it could be really anything that is basically off of Facebook's platform. It made it so that the tracking and the accuracy, most importantly, of that tracking was not as precise as it once was. So basically Apple's update here with tracking kind of rendered the Facebook pixel a moot point, which, really isn't that great for advertisers because it made it so that our efforts weren't as effective. Whenever all of this first started happening, Facebook reported that basically things like lookalike audiences and things of that nature, and really any data that happened off of Facebook's platform, it basically had a 40% accuracy rating. So if you think about it, let's just say that you're, selling sneakers. Well, if you are selling sneakers on Facebook, you're only able to track about 40% of your sales. And so over the last, about 18 months-ish, and of course, this has been a doom and gloom coming for a long time. But basically, excuse me, what had happened over all of these, months that, since this really basically Facebook or Apple slap came into play, third-party tracking platforms have come out, which have performed great because they developed their own pixels to be able to put on your site so that you can really close the gap of that basically inaccuracy of the tracking. So really what we're going to be talking about today is Google's end of things. So obviously Apple kind of like threw the first punch with Facebook, and really all of these other platforms started seeing the massive fallout. Now, before Apple even took a swing at Facebook, Google was also planning to do the exact same thing. So basically taking away cookies. So, and like I said, again, for those of you who don't know who or what a cookie is, it's really just something that is dropped onto somebody or it's like that fishing net that we were talking about to really track them and their engagement with you. So you can obviously see how this would be really good for people who are advertisers so that they can make sure that they are advertising to you in an intelligent and behaviorally reactive fashion. So like I said, Google's been planning to do this for a long time. And we've all heard of like Cookieless, the Armageddons of Google. Well, after this had happened with Apple and Facebook, Google said, okay, wait, we're gonna hit pause on our launch of this, and we're really gonna kind of see what the fallout is and kind of how the market reacts to this. Well, obviously, Facebook lost nearly $10 billion in revenue with different sponsors leaving, advertisers dropping off. So I mean, literally, kind of like the end of the world for them. In terms of the advertising platform. Now, that's not to mean that it's still not one of the best ad platforms out there. They just had to pivot. And so essentially Google said, okay, we're going to wait. Now, they put theirs on hold for the first round of delays through 2022. So this year. Then it was 2023. Now, they actually just released now that they're not going to be publishing this cookieless Google world until 2024. So in this case, now what they're saying is that because of what happened with Facebook and how, yes, it was good for the user, let's just say, that's debatable. Ooh, I almost hit my microphone. That's debatable whether it was great for the user or not. But really, if you think about it, it was also really bad for business. So what Google did was they took a step back and they said, okay, now that we've seen the massive fallout and the huge loss that Facebook had with this, iOS update, let's see how we can maybe benefit both worlds. So the consumer side, as well as being business friendly. So over the course of the last year, there have been a bunch of different testing, what are called sandboxes, for different sort of APIs that developers have been putting onto the Chrome browser, which is Google Chrome. That's their search browser. Basically, they've been doing a bunch of different testings since then, but they have also found that with their first rendition of their cookieless world, it too wasn't as friendly for businesses. And obviously, Google Ads and their Google Display Network and all of those affiliates is a huge, massive revenue generation tool for them. So what they saw was, since this is what happened to Facebook, we're going to push our cookieless world for a little while, and we are going to try to find the best of both worlds for both the consumer as well as the business. And so that's really kind of the state of things of Google right now and their cookieless world. Now, if you're curious about what's going on with Facebook, Facebook is still kind of on the way back. They're actually still kind of in secret cahoots or conversations with Apple to try to come to some sort of understanding. Now, Facebook has released the Facebook Conversions API. Now, it is very code intensive. And what this is doing is this is putting the emphasis on the server side of things. So on like your website and things of that nature, to really make it so that they are tracking and then reporting back from your actual website and actions taken on your website rather than just strictly relying on the Facebook pixel. Now, nobody knows necessarily what that type of programming is going to look like for the Google end of things because, like I said, they now pushed another 2 years on their release. So obviously, them starting to consider being more business friendly. This is something that is to be taken with a grain of salt, but obviously, that's why, us as digital folks, we constantly keep our finger on the pulse and really keep our ear to the ground so that we can make sure that we're providing the most up-to-date and cutting-edge strategies, technologies, and solutions to make sure that your value proposition, your message, your expertise are constantly being put in front of your ideal customer versus having to do a lot of spraying and praying or a lot of wasted time and money doing a lot of unnecessary testing. And that's really kind of what had to happen with, what happened with Apple and Facebook, because really the algorithm just went completely haywire. Things that were true the week before literally were a complete fallout the week after. So there was a lot of different ecosystems, environments that were going on. And really now it's kind of started to come to a head. And Thank God, because otherwise Facebook would just continue to bleed money and lose, business subscribers, which is one of their number one revenue generation tools. So that's kind of this in a nutshell. Really, to take away from this right now, as it stands in the summer of 2022, this is kind of the environment and kind of the climate of online advertising with like Facebook, Apple, Google. And also some of you might be wondering, well, why did Apple do this? It's not necessarily clear why Apple did this to Facebook, but there's a lot of speculation that's going on out there in terms of market control because they also have their own search platform. And it's not as relevant to a lot of the calls to action that like Facebook or Google has, but they do have their own platform. But, also making sure that they are protecting their side of the things with users. And now everybody is just trying to really find a more happy balance between business friendly and user friendly to make sure that really the advertising that is being displayed to your ideal customer or your ideal audience is also favorable to them. So really just making both sides of the spectrum a happy synergy and relationship with advertising. So that's all I've got really for you guys today. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to, continue to go into more discussions with this, but this is the current climate of digital advertising. It's still 100% the best bang for your buck out there in terms of being able to generate leads and sales and do more of really what you do in terms of attracting, ideal prospects, presenting your value proposition, your expertise, your message, etc. Still the best bang for your buck, still the best thing that you could possibly do for your business, but just kind of like everything else, change comes with the territory. So, that's why we're, putting these together so that we can make sure that you're continually being educated. We're continuing to get feedback to help create more of that ideal value proposition between you and your end user online. And really that's kind of, the perfect harmony. So things are just kind of like checks and balances. And, that's why we're here. So thank you very much for watching this. Like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, but we'll see you next time.
When you want your leads and sales on autopilot and to accelerate your business, you come to The Source. The Convert Source Podcast with Alex Kubasek. Let's go.